Okay, Bill, if you want to stand in this general area, okay, we're good to go. So, everybody, folks, this is Bill Jeffries. I sent you his bio over the weekend. Originally, as you guys all know, and I'll introduce a little bit for Bill right now, I'm relatively new to Bakersfield. So I know some folks in banking, but they're all back east. Okay. And, we got several folks in here that are either interested in accounting or banking careers, and they're probably not going to end up working for like U.S. Bank or Fifth Third out of Cincinnati. Right. They're going to be working for a company here. So I really wanted to have somebody come in and talk locally that's in the banking sector here. And Kelly Bearden, the head of our SBDC, right. I asked him, Kelly, can you find somebody to talk and introduce me, because I don't know anybody in banking here. And originally he had suggested Bob. So I'm sorry they didn't tailor the questions for you, but I got everybody all ready to see Bob Meadows, and then Bob wasn't available and you're available. So you guys have the bio, but you originally prepared questions for Bob Meadows of Mission Bank. Also starts with the letter B, but this is Bill Jeffries of Citizens Bank. You read the bio, but otherwise they may not know you too well. So if you want to talk a little bit about yourself Absolutely. And then answer questions, that'd be great.
Sure. Well, good afternoon. This is a senior seminar final class.
It is.
Fantastic. I remember taking mine in 1975 in business administration at St. Leo University, which is just north of Tampa, Florida. So also, I think in my bio, I was a graduate of the LSU School of Banking back in 1990. So again, 25 years have passed. Time is just rapidly changing, and so is the banking industry. So I can say I've touched banking in my career 5 different decades, not continuously, but from the late 70s on till now. So I've been at Citizens Business Bank for the past 5 years. I'm what they call a portfolio manager. So I am kind of in the back room working with loan files. Actually, it's all computerized now. We just did a major conversion of paper files to visual files on our system. And I can do that, look at any loan throughout our bank if I need to and have access to it. But we do upload the updated financial statements that we always request annually for a lot of the large borrowers for the bank. I'm going to pass around just a financial statement of condition, and this goes through the second quarter of this year. And here's an annual report. We are a publicly traded company, so you can take a look at this and pass it around also. Back when I started college in 71, it's like, what do I want to do? And I thought, I want to get a business degree, business administration. Now, when you think about the age of technology, back then, what did we do? We took a Fortran training class and did IBM key punch cards for software. And they had one computer on the campus, and that was the computer that the college used to do all of their computing of their finances. So we got to go into the computer room, and it was a huge room with a lot of equipment and air conditioning. And now you've got the power of these little devices right here that you can see what's going on around the world in real time. Back then it was the faxes, and then we had the pagers, and no cell phones, no ATMs. So there's been a lot of changes in the industry, and the career paths have changed a lot. Regulation and compliance seems to be a growing area of hiring throughout the banking industry, the legal side of it, the compliance side of it. So if I look at departments that have grown the most in the last 5 years at Citizens, it's the compliance department, where they had like 2 or 3 people. They're up to like 22 people. We always need good people to lend money and to be trained on the background of lending. It's still a face-to-face business on the business side of the world. As our title, Citizens Business Bank, we cater to businesses. We're not what I call a retail banker or consumer banker. Our target market is the top 20% of businesses in any industry. We like to see, we can look at anywhere from 2 to 5 million in sales, all the way up to $200 million in sales. We do a thorough review through our credit department, but you still got to know about your relationships when you're dealing with a business client. And in my career here in Bakersfield for the past 10 years, it was 5 years with Citizens, 3 years with Rabobank, and I actually managed 2 branches here in Bakersfield. And prior to that, my first 4 years in Bakersfield, I was an economic developer for Kern EDC. I came across country to marry a Bakersfield lady, and she has her degree from Cal State, her master's degree. We have 2 of our children that have Cal State degrees. One's in accounting and the other's in nursing. And the rest of them have had some DC experience and technical, with one being an electrician. So I've been out here on other occasions to CSUB events, and this campus has evolved a lot in the last 10 years. And the classes that you're taking to prepare you for some type of a career path that you may have in business or banking or accounting. How many are all of you business majors then? All of you? Okay. Any of them with the accounting side of it?
Yeah, put your hands up high.
Let's see.
I know who you are.
All right. Okay. That's another area. My son got an accounting degree here, but then he turned around and got another degree in arts and graphic design and computer stuff, so he's on that side of the fence. And I'm thinking, gosh, all those studies of accounting and classes, which he did very well, and I said, why don't you think about that? You know, that could still be a great career path. And I know there's a lot of collaboration with local CPA firms to hire Cal State graduates with their accounting degrees. How many are planning on staying in Bakersfield after your graduation? Anybody?
Hands high.
Okay, that's pretty typical, is that a lot of the young graduates that maybe have grown up in Bakersfield say, you know what, I want to go to San Diego, or I want to go somewhere else in the U.S. or international to see other sites of other parts of the world or the U.S. and have an opportunity to see a different environment. But banking's pretty. If you look across the country, we all have the same regulations. We're all under the Federal Reserve or the FDIC or the state regulators. So we all have the same compliance that we have to do on the credit side. We also we have to have a sales team. There has to be people out there in the banking world where it used to be you're an order taker, you'd sit at your desk, wait for somebody to come in and say, I'd like to borrow some money. Well, now, where all the banks are hungry for loans. This recession that we went through is the worst I've seen, and I've gone through a couple other smaller cycles in the banking world since the late 70s when, if you've heard of the S&L crisis, that, you know, back, if you did some of your classwork, talked about the cycles and financial impact to industries and to the country or the economy. We've gone through a couple of these recessions, but this last one was terrible. Now, just to give you kind of a current event, this morning I was at a breakfast, and we had the city manager there, Alan Tandy, and we had John Nylon, who is a CAO of the county of Kern, give a talk about the impact of the local economy and what's happening or what they're seeing. And the 2 big issues that they're looking at is the decrease in the oil prices, you know, this $50 a barrel or less, the impact it has on a couple of major key components to this local economy. Tax revenue that they're charging the oil and gas industry before they even pull that gas out of the ground. To number 2, the loss of jobs that we've seen in the oil and gas industry locally, which decreases the amount of spending, disposable spending that a family may have. So the sales tax revenue for the city has dropped. So they're on some very tight budgets for the next few years. Banking has been tight. We're not paying any money for interest, for deposits. I mean, we're at a historical low. If we invest money through the Fed funds rate, which is an overnight investment that the bank makes, when I was a comptroller of the bank, I was making 7, 8 to 10% overnight back in the early 80s. And over a weekend or a 3-day weekend, man, I was making a lot of money for that bank. But on the loan side, when interest rates went up to over 20% prime, who could afford to pay that type of interest? A borrower, especially a new business or a smaller business that needed capital to expand, or receivable financing. There's all types of specialized lending programs now. So, with this current recession that we've gone through and the impact it's had on us, we're running very lean. We're not paying any interest on deposits. The prime rate's been at 3.25 for the longest time, so our margins are squeezed. Your largest profit margin in any bank should be your loan portfolio. The second area deals with fee income, the service charges you pay on your checking account, or you're using an ATM, you got a fee there. Third item is those specialty areas of banking. Now, I'll tell you what we have in some of the other banks here in the community, from the independent small bank to the large B of A's of the world, of the Wells Fargo. International banking, we have a small division. We're based out of Ontario, California. We're about a $7.8 billion bank with about 45 offices. We've acquired a couple of smaller banks in the past 2 years. They hired me when, are any of you familiar with the name San Joaquin Bank here locally? That was taken over by the Feds a little over 6 years ago. And there were banks competing to buy the assets of the failed bank. Citizens won that bank acquisition. They hired me a year later from Bravo to work out bad loans and try to make sure that we could minimize losses, because the FDIC had to make up with a payment for any losses. So I work the portfolio. What are we doing? We're getting with the customer face to face. We're asking them about their finances. Give us a current profit and loss statement. Give us a current balance sheet. Well, some of these businesses weren't getting paid by their customers. It was kind of a chain reaction. This gentleman couldn't pay this one. This customer couldn't pay this one, and it just came up. And then here's the bank loan. There's no money to pay the bank loan. So you have to restructure, refinance. You take more collateral if it's available. It could be real estate. It could be the person, a smaller business, could be a second deed of trust on their home. There was a lot of ways that had to be reviewed with that client to go through this recession. So what's going to happen in the near future? Anybody got an idea? Let me get some feedback. You're all seniors and graduating. What's going to happen to interest rates? Going to go up? Going to go up? That's highly likely that we're going to see an increase. The Federal Reserve is looking to increase rates slightly. One of the reasons is that the unemployment rate nationwide is steadily dropping. There's been more jobs created. Now, are they good paying jobs? It just depends. There's some sectors where it is. There's some sectors it's minimum wage. So holiday season, there's a lot of temporary help going out to the retail industry, or the Amazon.coms and the distribution, these mega distribution centers that we see. And so rates are looking to trend up. I think mortgage rates are too for residential mortgages. They've been so low for so long that things have got to start going back on par where they should be. The Feds can do so much. Then you've got the monetary and fiscal policy. Have you studied that in your courses here? Fed policy, monetary, fiscal policy, the government taxation, lower taxes, raise taxes, those types of things to either slow down the economy and the inflation, or to increase, try to increase the economy to get it going again. So one other thing over the course of history that's made the economy grow is war. If you look back over the last century and you see where the economy was faltering, and then a war hit, major war, the economy kind of picked back up. So there's a lot of things that go behind what interest rate you're going to pay for your car loan, rebates, the incentives that the automobile industry had to do when there was no, car sales slumped. How do I get you and you and you to come into my dealership and buy a car? And 0% interest for 3, 4, 5 years. So there's been a lot of creative ways put together that I did not see when I graduated from college and started into banking. A lot of changes. Now, I know there were some questions there. You want me to try to go through some of these questions with you, or do you have any you want to just ask right now? Jimmy?
Anybody, I as like what I found, Bill. What I found is like, first of all, it might be partially because I tend to like talk a lot and I like to talk a lot, and the students get accustomed to that.
Right.
So I found that like requiring the questions beforehand gets you good quality questions when people otherwise are shy to speak up.
Okay.
So, Lafrite? So
I've got the
I would
questions.
love, yeah, I've been picking out ones that I thought would be good to get
Okay.
to if you don't get to them. But please, like, you guys got the bio. Anybody want to speak up with a question that's a little bit different about Phil than what you originally prepared for Bob Meadows?
Yeah, I can't answer about my my term admission bank. So, but in fact, I did see Bob this morning at the same breakfast. So I didn't get to talk to him about that. I was filling in for him today. We Citizens Business Bank. It's about a 41-year-old institution, just about the roots. It started out in Chino Valley. It started out as a small ag bank. The Borba family was one of the founders, and they have a presence here in Kern County. And they have dairies in the south part of town here. So they've grown over the years from a one-office location to about 45 offices. From a very small bank to, again, just under $8 billion in size. We're only in California. We're based in Ontario, California. They have an arena down there called the Citizens Business Bank Arena, like the Rabobank Arena here. And we have rival hockey teams, that play between Bakersfield and Ontario.
We just played on Saturday.
That's correct. That's correct. I think we beat them too.
No?
No.
We beat them, yes.
We
Yeah,
beat
I
them.
thought you were. I was thinking about the headquarters location,
Right.
and the headquarters
I'm
location
still
got
favoring
beat.
Bakersfield when it comes to with the Condors. And I followed them for the past 10 years. One of the questions: do we do home loans? We do have a home loan division.
Actually, Bill, can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Just to give some background. That was from Macy. Macy, can you raise your hand? Macy,
Okay.
I do my best to have a pretty good understanding of where everybody in this class is going with their career paths.
Okay.
Macy's a realtor, so to give you
Okay.
some background, I have no idea like the extent to which you guys are involved in home loans versus business loans. So the context of that question is that she's been a realtor for a while with Keller Williams. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. We're an affiliate member of the Bakersfield Board of Realtors. So I go to the commercial industrial meetings the third Friday of the month at the association's office off of Truxton, and that's where I look for prospecting for leads. Of course, the regulatory environment's changed a lot, where that person who takes your application has to have a license, a unique identification number here in the state, and the feds. They have to have background check because of all of the problems that we saw through this recession and the homes being foreclosed on and things that were really not suitable to the consumer to buy a home. Not full disclosures, or let's say adequate disclosures. We do not offer a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So if I'm gonna, if somebody asks me, there's other very reputable, not necessarily banks, but others like Quicken Loans that do a really good job if you're looking for that 30-year fixed. If you're looking for a 15-year fix, we could look at that. If you're looking for an interest-only loan, and we work a lot with doctors that buy a house on the coast or a condo and they need some specialized financing, we'll do that. But we're not marketing home loans to that extent. We we do construction loans for residential, but generally it would be a home that you would find in a subdivision that's it's not a tract home, but it's a custom home. We'll look at the custom home market, and that generally you're talking about $500,000 on up. type properties. In the far west end of town, there's a Masterpiece Estates subdivision. And, you know, it's that type, or Seven Oaks subdivision, or Bakersfield Country Club. So that's the extent of our home loan program. Not really extensive, and I'm not qualified to really sit with someone and go through rates and disclosures. We have to have another person from our corporate office that does that. So it's all done by email and overnight mail for all the disclosures. But it's highly regulated now, and it's good. It's good for the customer, so that they get timely disclosures and they know with the good faith estimates what it's going to cost to buy that home, and estimated monthly payments based upon the interest rate. So if interest rates are looking to tick up a little bit soon, it's a good time to be locking into a home mortgage if you're looking to buy. I just pick another one out of the
Yeah, go right
we'll
ahead.
just go through.
Like
Okay.
when things take a lull, I've gone through and like cherry picked stuff, but I'd rather you pick the ones you think are most easy or interesting to address.
There was one about going to the Pacific Coast Banking School. I went to graduate school of banking at LSU, and that experience was excellent because I got to meet bankers all throughout the Southeast U.S. We would spend 2 weeks on the LSU campus for 3 years, and we had different bankers and specialists talk about banking and regulations. And then the final year, we had to go through a group project, and we would do an oral presentation with a written paper. So, and they broke them up into groups, about 5 or 6 people. So that was a great experience. If you're, you know, it always helps. I noticed from the class, graduation class, some of them found jobs with connections they made through LSU. The thing about our industry, it is constantly changing. We take compliance classes online every month, and it's updates, whether it's a state law, federal law. So I'm usually taking 2 or 3 online classes, and you take a little exam afterwards and have to have at least 80% or above, or you have to retake it online. So we're constantly doing that, and that's even from a customer service new accounts representative to a teller to our office manager. We all take the online classes, so it's a continuing process. When I finished college and was in banking, I've probably taken about 30 hours in a classroom setting at a community college back in Florida when I was in banking there initially. So it's ongoing. Things are changing. The technology right now, that's another aspect of banking that's evolving. The technology and the people that have to make sure our systems are secure from hackers. You know, the online banking where you take your phone, your mobile phone, and send, you know, all of this new technology, and just the security of it. That's a whole big area in the industry. I mean, I never thought I'd take a cell phone and take a picture, you know, of my check and make a deposit. Now, I haven't done it yet, but I've seen others do it. Or take a debit card, and you just swipe it, or you know, you go through, or you've got the chips on them now. Or you go to, you know, fast food place or restaurant. There you go, you make your purchase, and you're done with it. So that's another area in the financial services industry that's changed a lot. And again, the education process behind it. Now I'm a vice president. That's probably as high as I'm going to get in my career, and that's fine. I've had opportunities to go in other areas of banking. The trust division at one time years ago almost pulled the trigger and said, I want to get into trust. That's a very specialized area. We have a trust division, which is $2 billion under asset management with Citizens. And they acquired that over the course of the 40 years. It's over 101-year-old trust division. So that's a specialty area. We have specialists that I have come meet customers to go over some of those specialty needs that they have. There's some estate planning, buy-sell agreements. How many of you have family or relatives that own their own business? Anybody?
Hands high.
What's their succession plan? Is the next generation in that family going to run that business? Are they going to sell it to some key employees? How do you structure that transaction over time, or you've got a family with 3 or 4 adult children that could run the business, but only one works at full time, the other is working in another industry and moved out of state. So how do you put this together? You've worked 30 or 40 years, 1 or 2 generations of families, and it's like, gosh, I would rather sell it and get some profit of all this work we put into it. That'll be a continuing entity, and then work out, leaving some of that for family or charity or however you want to do it. So these are things that our trust division gets involved with. That's another very unique area. So I looked at trust as a part of my path. But I've been a branch manager, so I've supervised a branch. And the largest branch I ever supervised was back in Florida. And this is the hometown called Brooksville, where I went to high school. And I never figured I'd be the manager of the main office of that bank, which became Sun Banks of Florida, but then SunTrust Company. So over time they've been acquired or merged with other banks, and you see that there's a few independents out there or startups, but not many. The reason is you've got to have the cost to cover all the backbone technology for a bank, online banking, or you have to pay a third-party vendor to do it. And you're going to have to charge your customers for that. The regulatory environment, are you in compliance with your loan portfolio? And these are specialized areas, and they pay more than just the frontline person that you might see in the lobby. So it's hard for small banks to do that. You've got to really generate a lot of loans to offset those costs. And a bank's just like any other business. We either own our building and have to maintain it, or we have a lease on a building. We've got the salaries. We've got all the computer technology. We've got to have routers and servers and connectivity. Can you imagine? We've got 40-something offices scattered from Ontario to San Diego, all the way up to Madera and Fresno, and they all have to be connected. And it has to be a secure connection, too. So there's that cost of the infrastructure. Average amount of a small business loan that people apply for. There's SBA program, Small Business Administration, and there's a microloan program, and the Small Business Development Center here in Bakersfield has some connections with helping those either startups or small businesses that need those small loans, $5,000 up to $50,000. We generally don't do that type of a lending because we like to have someone that's got a track record in the business and not a startup. If you came in and said, I want to open up a restaurant, like, what's your background? Well, I've never run a restaurant before. Well, I'm taking you as a bank depositor's money and going to loan it to an entity out there with no experience. Is that a good use of your money? Probably not. And if we lose the money, the bank has to write that off. It's a loss. And we're not in the business to want to have to charge off loans. We want to help businesses grow. But what I do is I will refer them to resources to help them. They may not be big enough for me to help them or have enough experience behind it, but I'll try to find them an avenue initially to get to from square one to square two, and then from there, meet with the consultants. How many have done a business plan? You worked a business plan, anybody? A sample of one? Okay, good. And a lot of times we'll have them work with the SBDC to put a business plan together. Put it in writing. I can't read your mind of what you're trying to do. What's your business plan? What's your marketing plan? Those things that a lender wants to know that you know what you're doing. And I've questioned business people before and kind of caught them off guard saying, okay, you've got accounts receivable of $200,000. Who's your top 3 who's your top 3 customers that owe you money right now? And I have to pause a little bit to think about it. Well, that company that owes you $50,000, guess what? They're in the oil and gas industry, and they just lost their huge contract with Chevron. You think you'll get paid or paid on time? Maybe not. So those are things that you try to educate customers with, is that don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you have a concentration of one customer and they go to a competitor, you've lost all your business. And there's things that are uncontrollable to your business, such as this recession. People who borrowed money in 2006 and 2007 to expand their business, buy a building, buy trucks, buy computers, and then all of a sudden their business sales just continue to decline. Expenses were going like this, and finally, where those two crossed on the axis there, supply and demand, that was it. They were losing money. And when you're bleeding money and losing money, some businesses don't have enough capital to keep them going for more than 3 to 6 months. And that's why we like to see reserves. Well, what is your backup plan if something happens?
Bill, if I can chime in there for a
Sure.
second. I think you mentioned earlier, to put that question in context, Mariah was the one that originally asked that. About the size of a loan. Your family runs an auto dealership, right?
Yeah.
And linking this back and
Right.
linking it to several of the students in here who have family businesses, or some of them, I know Lovepreet actually, his dad was a farmer, but really Lovepreet's kind of running the farming operation right now himself, right? So some of the students in here have small business of their own. I think you mentioned $2 million as the low end of annual revenues. Do you ever loan to companies that have less than $2 million in annual revenues?
Yes. And
can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think in the context, Mariah, I don't know how much your guys, how much your annual sales are at your dealership?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, I wanted to put that in context a little bit.
Citizens acquired the assets of San Joaquin Bank. They were a local community bank, so they had a lot of small business loans on the books, and we still have a lot of those loans still on the books, and they've got lines of credit, and they've done very well. They've made it through the recession, and some of them are growing, some of them are just static. They're stable, but they're not growing a lot, and it could be for a lot of reasons. There's new competition. Look at all of the places you can eat now in Bakersfield versus 5 years ago. The competition. I've got customers that have smaller lines of credit. It costs the bank the same amount of money to put together a $50,000 or $100,000 loan than it does a $500,000 loan. So my time to help make the bank grow and make a profit is to try to go out and call or solicit the larger loans. That's my target market, But if a small business customer comes in, we'll counsel with them, and if it's something we can work with them on, we'll do it. A lot of times on a small business, if they can qualify for a $10,000 or $15,000 credit card, it's a lot less costly for them to do it that way than for me to charge them loan fees and doc fees. It's a lot less painful for cost, and there's a lot more flexibility with the credit card. Because on a line of credit, it's going to mature in 1 year, and then I got to get updated financials. And then what happens if the financials have deteriorated? I got to term that thing out. I'm not going to renew the line. That $25,000 or $50,000, we're going to put it on a payment period for so many months. They may not be able to do that. So, but that's from a marketing standpoint. Top 20% of any industry. We're looking for that type of sales revenue. Again, $1 million, $2 million on up. But there are alternatives, like I say, for the small businesses. The SBA program, the microloan program, and for those that are startups. Any other questions on that side of it? Okay. Yes?
Do you guys usually offer loans to just Fiscal businesses? Or can there be other businesses in Los Angeles?
Our lending area is where we have our markets, where we have offices. So yeah, we have offices in LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino. So, we'll loan in those areas. We're starting to expand over towards the coast. The bank we're acquiring first quarter next year is in Ventura County with 4 offices. So that's a new market. We don't generally lend to a borrower from out of state. It's just not, part of our due diligence as a lender is to go out and do a property inspection. We do have an ag division in the Central Valley. They're based in Visalia, and we try to support them with potential leads for ag lending, whether it's for crops. And ag is just a specialized field in banking. I'm not an ag lender. I know just enough to be able to say, hey, that's something that we're interested in looking at. With the current water shortage or crisis we're going through in the Central Valley, one of the checklists we have for the ag lender is we want to know about your water supply. Do you have wells? Are they maintained? What's your backup plan if the well goes out? Do you have a second well? What water district serves your property, where your ag property is? We've lost a lot of trees, almonds, because of this drought. And unless we get a great snowpack and a lot of rain this winter, it's going to be conserved next year. It's hard on the farmers. I mean, you've got Mother Nature that you're having to work around, and we've got this for citrus, this small bug, and when I lived in Florida, they had the problem there, and it really devastated a lot of citrus trees. So with that, we do have an ag division, but we do our due diligence and try to work with the farmers, and again, another specialty division along with the trust. We do some financing from our leasing division, our equipment division, where I just made a $250,000 loan to a borrower for a piece of equipment for a 5-year payoff, and they'll use it in their business. So again, that's a smaller loan, but it's a customer that has other relationships with us and deposits and real estate loans. So it was an easy fit to put that one on the books because we'd already done the underwriting. We know their cash flows. We know they have the ability to pay it. What is one strategy you use to help individuals reach their maximum potential? I would say over the course of my years in banking, I've always had an opportunity to mentor young people. And I really enjoy taking what's been soaked in this brain for over the course of 5 different decades and try to share that with them. Likewise, they share with me the high technology stuff that they can do, with their research and computer stuff. So it's a sharing. When you've been out in the field and you've met hundreds of customers over the course of a long time, and then you've experienced those, you hear about the what ifs. Well, I've lived through some of the what ifs in lending, where you've had the owner pass away, and there's the wife. She has nothing, she doesn't know how to run the business. How do you work through that situation? Bankruptcies, business bankruptcies, and how to deal with those. I mean, in some cases, the customer, did they do something wrong? Well, when they borrowed money back in 2006 or 7, the economy was doing pretty good. But then things changed. The environment changed. The competition changed. So, business people have a lot on their plate that they have to constantly monitor. How many of you buy on Amazon.com? Every week my wife is getting something for us, and she'll shop online, and it's free delivery. We got to have Amazon Prime. I mean, it's just, that's the wave of things, and the whole industry of banking and retailing, it's all changing because of this presence of the internet and the web. What is the most rewarding project you've worked on, and why was it rewarding?
So can you mention who? I like to tie people in by saying who asked the question. So I think the one before was from Esperanza about. Can you wave your? I think it was about helping people reach their full potential. And then the question about rewarding projects. Who was that?
Yes. Okay.
Awesome, Myra. There you go.
Boy, he's got all of you down. He knows what you're thinking and writing down. It's nice to be able to to make a loan to a customer and see him succeed and grow. Now, one of the hats that I wore before I came back into banking in Bakersfield was an economic developer. So I used to give these leads to the banks here in Kern County that a business needed some additional loans. Some of the neatest things that I got involved with, I did the energy cluster in Kern County. I did the aerospace and defense cluster. This is about 10 years ago. So I got to see the very first group Virgin Galactic people that came, and we met them at the Sheraton at LAX to talk about going to the spaceport in Mojave. And that was really cool. But somebody funded that venture. It might have been, from Great Britain. But that was just something I got involved with. I mentored and counseled a lot of small businesses during that time. And even today, they're my bank customers. Now, when I was not even in banking 10 years ago, I was an economic developer. So that's the rewards. You've seen businesses succeed. And you may have just gave them some ideas and tools. And I did. You can do a Google search on this. It's still in there. I look it up every so often. I had the name of the program through Kearney, DC that won a CalEd award. That's the local economic developers for the state of California. It was called Tomatoes on Steroids, an economic gardening program for small businesses. That was my baby. So that was the most rewarding thing of my career. And then through banking to actually still work with these businesses and make them loans.
So can I jump in with a couple that I wanted to make sure we get to?
Sure, absolutely.
So there's 4 students in here in particular. There's 4 students in this class who are interested in banking careers.
Okay.
3 of whom are here. Jeff normally would be sitting right there next to Yanira, but he had car trouble. He emailed me. He's disappointed not to be able to see you.
Okay.
So
well, I'll leave some business cards.
I'm going to mention.
I'd like all 4 of you to have one, and then we can have a one-on-one.
I'll mention his question as well, even though he's not here, because he can see the podcast.
Right.
So, Gabrielle, can you raise your hand? Gabrielle back there is one of the 4.
Okay.
His question was, all of these were originally directed towards Bob, but it was, what has made you stay with this company for so many years? So in your case, it's actually relatively recent, but perhaps you could address what has kept you in the banking industry and what do you like about staying at a company for a while. I'll mention the other questions all at once, and then you can choose what to answer. Maria Argan is also interested in a bank career, right? Your question also was originally about Mission Bank, but I think it applies just as well to Citizens. You remember what it was?
Not really.
It's about differentiation. So, what would you say makes Citizens Bank, allows you to provide the best banking experience in Bakersfield as opposed to other banks? So, what is it about Citizens that differentiates you? I mean, banks are banks. They've all got capital to lend. What makes you different? And then Anthony Hyatt here is actually more interested in investment banking.
Okay.
His question, you remember yours?
About green energy?
Yeah, can you repeat it?
Not word
I
for
can,
word.
but it's good that you remember it. It's been a while since you wrote it. So basically, has there been a huge shift of customers investing in green energy, and have there been any problems in like this as an investment sector? So those, and then Jeff, who's not here, what skill, in your opinion, was most important for you becoming a VP? Take out Mission Bank, put in Citizens Bank, but what was it? Jeff would normally be there. What is it that's a key skill that's helped you to build your career in the banking business?
I'll start with that first. Really, the education. I had a degree in business administration from St. Leo, and I started out as a management trainee at a small bank in Central Florida, towards the Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg area, called the Ellis Group of Banks. And I was a teller. I did everything. Worked the wire room. I just had the opportunity to do a little bit of everything. So I was eager to learn. So it's, you want to fill this sponge full of knowledge, and that's what I did. And then I actually became a comptroller of the bank. I was 27 years old, and it was a $47 million bank. I would do the board reports to the board. I would do the FDIC quarterly reports required. I had to supervise everything from the teller lobby area to the wire transfer department. I dealt with the Federal Reserve. I dealt with the correspondent banks that we transferred monies and invested overnight. A lot of paperwork, and we didn't have all the technology that you have there with the computers. And at the time I was there, we got our first ATM. It was a standalone, not even, that ATM was not even hooked up to a network. It was just to have a convenience factor there where people could have a card and get some cash out. So the education, graduate school of banking followed. So that's I think a key is be willing to cross-train in different areas of the bank. And like I say, I almost went into the trust area. I saw that portion. It could have been a nice career path too. But I've managed branches, and now I'm a portfolio manager. So I've changed again this past 5 years from being a branch manager at Rabobank. Bank. I had the Gosford and White Lane branch, and then I had the Stockdale, California branch at one time. So when they first hired me. So talk about having to be out of banking for a few years and economic development, and then come in and, you know, you're manager of a bank again and got 8 or 10 employees. I mean, there was a lot of things you had to learn. The software and the systems are all different. All the banks have different softwares. You know, there's some generics that are footprints that you use, but they all change. Okay, let's see. Let's go on to the rest of it. What differentiates us from other banks or a good customer experience, let's say? We're not just an order taker. We want to be able to sit with that customer one-on-one and have that contact. We want to get to know you, not just the numbers. We want to know the character and the capacity and the collateral and all of those things in part of the lending process. Another thing that we can bring to the table is that we can network opportunities for you. We just had a social event at the Petroleum Club for some of our clients, a Monday Night Football event. And it was good to be able to introduce this customer to another customer that they really didn't know each other. And we don't publish our list of customers anywhere. So it was just a nice networking event. I attend the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce social events and the Hispanic Chamber events. And I was just at the Hispanic Chamber event on Thursday night. Guess where it was? It was at the Wells Fargo Bank there off of 23rd Street. And yeah, so there I was surrounded about 25 Wells Fargo bankers, but some of them I've known, and you know, you get a fraternity of bankers that, whether it's Bob Meadows, who I've known a long time, or somebody from Wells or Mission Bank. I mean, it's just all, we're all trying to do the same thing, and we want to deliver good service. We all do as banks, and we want to know you. We want to know your background. We want to know, you know, can we help you with another type of loan, whether it's a home loan or trust services or investment division. You know, is there somebody in your family that has a farm and they need an ag loan? We work closely with the CPAs. They're trusted advisors. I don't give CPA advice or accounting advice. I don't give legal advice. We partner those up with other specialists here locally. So that's another key area. See, what else have I missed?
The other two questions were one about green energy.
Green energy. Oh, there you go.
That as an investing
go.
area, and then Gabrielle had a general question about, you know, what's kept you in banking for so long in your career, and in general, what leads you to stay at a company more or less.
Okay.
Gabrielle, do you want to add to that at all, Gabrielle?
Okay. I started January 2nd, 1977, going to this branch called the Ellis Bank in Dade City, Florida. First day in banking. Had to get a suit, you know, and get ready to rock and train and roll, you know, whatever was going to happen. I didn't initially do it for the money. My monthly salary was $500 a month.
Whew. Times have changed, huh?
Times have changed. Level entry salaries generally tend to be lower, unless you're a really specialist in your career path and you've got something that all the banks need. It's supply and demand. over time, as I moved up the ladder, when you get 2 to 3 pay raises within 18 months, you know you must be doing something right. And you know you're doing something right when your competitors are knocking on your door trying to recruit you. And I'm fortunate and blessed that I had that opportunity. I wasn't looking to leave Rabo Bank, but Citizens Bank needed someone that had lending experience and knew the community. And when I came here 11 years ago, I could count on my hand the number of people I knew in Kern County. On the breakfast meeting I was at this morning, there was probably about 75, 80 people there. I probably knew 60 of them already. So I did a lot of networking. And it's a lot of long hours. It's not a 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job. Banking is long hours. Because if I'm out here and there's nobody doing my work at the office right now for me, so when I get back, I'll have to start back on my paperwork. And I'll be sitting in front of a two large screen at the computer, and I'll be doing a lot of things. Emails are coming in. My cell phone vibrating a little bit while I'm here, but that's just part of it. And I've worked on several $1 million worth of loans in the last 90 days myself, and I'm not full time doing that. I have other responsibilities with the portfolio. So be willing to go through the school of hard knocks. You may not get a lot when you get in there, but if you keep learning and look for a path in there that you really enjoy, and the salary will come and the benefits will come. And if you're in the sales side, you can earn commission. If you bring in a lot of loans in 1 year, you might be eligible for a nice bonus. So those on the lending side, that's a great motivator. And they're good salespeople and they're good bankers. They're not trying to push a loan that's not creditworthy. It's got to be underwritten. So they do their due diligence. Energy. When I was at Kearney, DC, I did the energy cluster for Kern County, oil and gas and renewables. Now back in the 10 years ago, it was mainly wind energy in Tehachapi. Solar was just starting to get some traction with the commercial application on commercial buildings, residential, and then these large, massive properties on the ag side or out in East Kern County, put these huge platforms. When I was involved, I was dealing with Southern Cal Edison and PG&E. And they had the initiative that Governor Schwarzenegger that we had to convert our energy production, but it was hard to find a lender to do that, especially banks. It was something new. What's my collateral? Some panels, or what am I going to have? But there was certain incentives for companies and individuals to do solar. I have solar on my house. I love it. I couldn't afford it when it first came out, but I finally got on a plan that I've got solar on my house now. I've got 33 panels. And it's all southern exposure. There's no shade, so it works well. There was a lot of private money investment, I think, that really ramped that up. There's the one company, VIVANT or something like Vivid. The owner or the head of that was on 60 Minutes some months ago and talked about starting his company, and now they're expanding. There's a lot of solar companies here. It's created a lot of jobs. We'll finance solar on a building. If it's an ag property or industrial building and they want to put on solar, we'll generally finance it for 5 years or whatever if they need financing. It's been done before. Or we can file what they call a UCC financing on it. We may not, if we've got a first mortgage on the property, we could file a second if we wanted to, as collateral. But if it's really a good creditworthy person, but it was hard in the early days. I think it's improving. And again, there's venture and angel capital. Have you gone into that, studied any of that?
It's not specifically part of this class. But,
Okay.
I think Anthony's familiar with the terms, and anybody in my small business management class is more familiar with that.
Some of the Silicon Valley billionaires, have gotten into the solar aspect. I know Sun Solar, I believe, or one of them, seed money came from one of those investors from the Silicon Valley, and that's how it's evolved. And private enterprise, not necessarily the banks. So,
Bill, I'm going to jump in here. I've got another speaker
Yes.
lined up for about now.
okay.
From the entertainment sector, totally different talk. She's going to be on Skype, so
Oh, cool.
I'm going to start getting that lined up.
Sure.
Does anybody have a final question you wanted to make sure for Bill to get to? If not, do you want to sort of pick something to end on? I've got about 5 minutes here
Sure.
to set things up.
Okay, that's fine. What are the difficult parts of your job? Oh, wow. I didn't have any gray hair last year. Do you know that? Change can be challenging. Really challenging. When I think about what your schooling's been like and your experience at Cal State Bakersfield and technology, I mean, it's at warp speed from what it was when I was a student. So you've got to embrace change because you haven't seen nothing yet. Put 25 years in the future and see what things are doing. You know how technology is evolving and how business is changing, industry is changing. I mean, I've been into factories, these fabrication companies where they'll do 3D imaging and everything of the part. You know, somebody needs a very unique piece of equipment, and they don't make it anymore, and they take the computer stuff and they can fabricate this thing. I've seen those in the last few years. I actually have customers that did that. And so be ready for change. It seems to be going faster and it's evolving quicker than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. You know, things were just kind of steady, and you know, now we've got all the Apple computer technology that's come about. I mean, we didn't dream about that back when I was in college. It wasn't there. We didn't have cell phones. You know, we had 10 cents to go to a payphone if we had to, or a rotary dial. So be prepared for the ride. It could be a roller coaster. Just hang on. Don't fall off that roller coaster. Stay on the ride. And you can really enjoy that ride if you've got the right attitude.
That's a great point to end on. I think let's all give Bill a huge round of applause.
Thank you. Whatever you're doing in your career, you know, feel free to email me or call me. And if you have any specific questions, you want a one-on-one, lunch or something.
Bill, let me give you my card as well. I really appreciate you coming by. I look forward to staying in touch.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And I have met Dr. Mitchell, and he's a great president here, and I've seen a thing this campus grow a lot in the last 10 years. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations coming up.
Bill, thanks a lot.
Take care.
Take care. Okay, part 2 of speeches for today.
Oh yeah, the cop shop. I don't know. I thought. Is this where we go to Starbucks Saturday? Maybe training. I'm not the Starbucks.
Bam? Can you hear me? Okay, hang on. We can't hear you yet. I got to figure out what I got to do with the microphone. Hang on. I may have to stop and call you back here in a second. Hang on one sec.